Nolan Wells, a death that was clearly avoidable, people, if you pay attention to history and how history works. America, the United States, this country since the beginning between black and white, African American and European American, white America, black America, it's always been an issue between us. Now, segregation or integration has calmed things down, but there's always tension, and it always will be based on the history of our encounter in this country. First encounter is everything, and what happens after that first encounter shapes the relationship going forward. Here we are over 300 years later, and we're still having the same issues that we had over 300 years ago. It's a crazy cycle. But Nolan Wells, right? What do we learn as we get older? See, if you from a predominantly black city, if you from a place where predominantly there's only African Americans, see, if you grew up somewhere like Texas, certain parts of Texas, I know they have, it's mixed when it comes to the schooling and the neighborhoods. A lot of blacks grow up around a lot of Hispanics. In New York, a lot of blacks grew up around a lot of Hispanics. In LA, a lot of blacks grew up around a lot of Hispanics. In Florida, same thing. In Arizona, same thing. These states that border other states, border other countries, or these island type states like New York or whatever. Listen, you gonna grow up around other races, from what I understand. But if you from the Midwest, chances are you're not gonna grow up around any other race. Listen, I'm from Detroit, Michigan, people. There was no other races in my schools growing up as far as kids. The only time there was a different race growing up was the Hmong community. The Hmong is sort of like, but they not, are like Asians, but they're not, which is crazy. But that's the only community that I grew up around growing up, and that was for a brief time, the Hmong community. And then it was kind of like a white flight situation where they all just packed up and moved, kind of like all at once, and moved to the suburbs, right? And that was only in one section. That wasn't the whole city of Detroit. That was one section on Detroit's east side where it was a huge Hmong population. But like I said, they all eventually just moved away. Now, some might say Southwest Detroit, you got a Hispanic. I didn't even know what Southwest Detroit was until I became an adult or a late teen. Going to college, I didn't know what it was. And ironically, when I went to college or started going to college, right, there was a Hispanic girl who, okay, I got on her or whatever. And she told me, she said she was from Southwest Detroit. And I'm like, Southwest Detroit, what is that? Because I was just used to the east side, west side, and north end. I had no idea Southwest Detroit existed. Nor did I know it was Mexicans or Hispanics in Southwest Detroit. And black people in Southwest Detroit was growing up with Hispanics and white people. I had no idea. So she told me, I asked her, when you going to let me come see you? And this is my first time actually talking to somebody, like having discourse with a female outside of my race. So I asked her, I said, when you going to let me come see you? She said, oh, I would, but my father's racist. I said, what? She said, yeah, my father doesn't like black people. I said, interesting. Wow. So because I had never dated outside my race, talked to anybody outside my race, I was like, oh yeah, I'm done. I'm good on her. But anyway, so growing up on the east side, growing up on the west side, I can only vouch for me. But the schools I went to, there was no other race of kids. growing up in those schools or going to those schools. It was only black kids. And that's all I knew growing up. But as you get older, you start seeing and hearing about kids or even adults that go or hang with a population of majority white people, and they end up meeting their untimely demise. And it's like, why is that? Why is it that this one singular black person went and hung with 10 white people, and when they never returned? They never returned home. They were exit off of this plane we call Earth for some foreseen circumstances, just by hanging with this certain group of people from this certain ethnic group, from this certain demographic. There's no historical list you can go to and say, hey, when a white American or when a white American hangs with a group of black Americans, they always somehow end up exited off this earth. You can't go to there's no historical list behind that. Like, oh, you better not go hang with a group of black people. You know what they say? If you do that, you're gonna end up RIP. It's nothing like that with us. But for some odd reason, historically, you are told you better not be the only black person in that group going all the way over to who know whereville. Because if you do, it's a chance that something might happen to you. And we see it over and over. And that's the same thing that happened to this kid in 2026, people. This is 2026. This ain't 1990. This ain't the 80s. This ain't the 70s. This is 2026. Nolan Wells, if you look at that picture of him on that boat, he is the only black kid there. That's danger. Listen, horror movies are supposed to be fiction. Horror movies are supposed to be make-believe. But this scenario is a real-life horror scenario. Because it's a tale as old as time when it comes to this country. Don't be the only black person in that group. I want to take a trip up north. Oh, who you going with? All my friends. Oh, who are they? So and so, so and so, and so and so, and so and so. That sounds like a group of number white kids. It is. You're not going. Why? Because I can't afford to have you go somewhere far away with a group that is only white, and the chances of you not making it back are 99%. Now, some of you might say, oh, that's crazy talk. But historical data proves it. There's too many stories. You remember the lady? Like I said, this is like a horror movie, people. Remember the lady who had she spent the night over. They had a sleepover. It was about six white women and her. Next day, she RIP'd in the backyard, and nobody can explain what happened to her. Because in these scenarios, people, they know. Here's the crazy part, right? And this is what makes this so sick and sadistic. White America knows that as a group, they can get away with this. They can get away with RIPs as a group because they know America as a whole is not going to turn on a group of white Americans versus one black person. They know. Hold on one second. They know that to American society, to white America, 6 white lives or 3 or 4 white lives, to them, is not worth throwing away for one black life because those 3, 4, 5, 6 white lives decided to RIP that black life. I want y'all to think about that. Even with their own. It was a case here in Michigan where a father was driving home on a freeway and about 5 white teens decided to throw boulders off the bridge that the freeway is under. And they threw a boulder so big it went through the father's windshield, caused him to crash and RIP'd him. Do you know none of these teens I don't believe any of them got over 5 years in prison? Because the American justice system said we would rather not see 5 or 6 teens lose their lives or futures for one white male. When we have 5 or 6 that still haven't came to age in this country, so we're going to give you an initial slap on the wrist. And that's the same thing. Listen, Nolan Wells was taken off of this place, not by accident. But the thing is, it happened in Mississippi. It happened in a state with historical racism. And it happened by potentially 5 or 6 white males, teenagers. All of them family connections to law enforcement and government. And here's the thing, people. They were probably planning this for a long time. A very, very long time. And they knew they were going to get away with it. They knew it. It's a movie I seen, right? Me and my sister watched. This was a dark movie. This guy and his wife, I believe she was, they decided to go camping. And it was a group of this was like a European movie or something like that. They decided to go camping, and it was a group of so everybody in this scenario is white, but the teens. So there was teens there, and they had like a German Shepherd, and they were like on the same part of like the kind of like beach or where the water came up at, and their dog just kept barking or threatening to attack, right, the guy and his wife. So the wife told him to leave it alone, but he decided he wanted to say something to the teens. So they get into an argument or whatever, which leads to the teens literally terrorizing them the entire time that they were out there, to the point where they actually, annihilated. We're gonna replace words. We're gonna put, instead of KILL, we're gonna put annihilated. So they decided to annihilate the male after torturing him, and they video recorded it. So then the wife, she somehow escapes the woods, makes it to a neighborhood, crashes. She crashes. The people who come out, they having like a little mini party. They come out, ask her what happened. She tell them what happened. Next thing you know, the teens, they show up at the house. She sees them. She goes crazy or whatever. Those are the ones who annihilated my husband. So all the parents that's there partying, they decide, well, we're not going to let our kids go down for annihilating her husband. So we need to do something. So they all decide to annihilate her. She's in a bathroom. She goes in the bathroom. The males enter the bathroom with knives and begin, poking a knife in her. They tell the kids to go upstairs. The one boy who was like the ringleader decides to delete the videos of them setting the guy on fire and torturing him. And the movie ends like that, like with the family all the family members or the parents covering it up. So it's just it just goes to show you, like, this isn't some random, that'll never happen. Like, no, these type of things happen. It continues to happen here in America. I just gave you 2 cases. The one with the lady who was found deceased in the backyard after having a sleepover with her so-called 6 white female friends. Now we have another scenario where a young black teen decides to get on a boat with all white friends, and he's the only one who doesn't make it back. This continues to happen, people. It continues to happen. And it could have been avoided. It should have been avoided, but it wasn't, because you had some parents who I'm about to get on in this next video that decided to not pay attention to historical facts, and this is the result of it.